Mason sat in the dimly lit coffee shop, nervously sipping his latte. His friends had convinced him to try Tinder, promising exciting connections and potential romance. Little did he know that his first encounter would unravel a series of mysterious events. As Mason swiped through profiles, he stumbled upon a captivating photo of a woman named Alina. Intrigued by her enigmatic smile, he swiped right. To his surprise, they matched almost instantly. Messages flowed between them, and soon they agreed to meet at the same coffee shop where Mason now anxiously awaited her arrival. Alina walked in, her eyes locking onto Mason's. There was something magnetic about her presence. They exchanged pleasantries, and Mason found himself drawn to her wit and charm. The conversation flowed effortlessly, but as the evening progressed, Mason couldn't shake the feeling that there was more to Alina than met the eye. Days turned into weeks, and Mason and Alina's connection deepened. Yet there were peculiar moments that left Mason questioning. He overheard hushed conversations when he entered a room, and occasionally, Alina would abruptly change the subject when he asked about her past. Mason's curiosity grew, but he hesitated to pry too much, not wanting to ruin what seemed like a promising connection. One evening, as they strolled through the city, Alina's phone buzzed. She quickly glanced at the message and excused herself, leaving Mason alone on the crowded street. As he waited, a stranger approached him, handing him an old-fashioned key. "Keep this safe. It might be the key to your future," the stranger whispered before disappearing into the night. Confused and intrigued, Mason pocketed the key. When Alina returned, he questioned her about the mysterious encounter, but she brushed it off, claiming it was a random occurrence. Little did Mason know that this key would unlock a series of secrets that would change the course of his life. Mason's relationship with Alina took an unexpected turn. The key, seemingly insignificant, became the catalyst for a series of events that plunged Mason into a world of intrigue and uncertainty. Late one night, unable to resist the temptation any longer, Mason used the key to open a small dusty box he had found hidden in Alina's apartment. Inside, he discovered a collection of old letters, each telling a tale of heartbreak, betrayal, and mysterious disappearances. The letters hinted at a hidden society with its own set of rules and consequences. As Mason delved deeper, he uncovered a web of connections between Alina and this secret world. It appeared that his Tinder date had a history shrouded in mystery, and Mason was inadvertently becoming entangled in a complex web of lies and deception. Determined to uncover the truth, Mason confronted Alina. Tears welled in her eyes as she confessed to being a reluctant member of a clandestine organization. She explained that her past was haunted by decisions that she couldn't escape. Mason, torn between love and fear, had a choice to make: walk away from the enigma that was Alina or embrace the uncertainty that lay ahead. The more Mason learned, the darker the secrets became. The mysterious organization had plans that involved him, and his connection with Alina was no accident. As he grappled with the choices before him, Mason realized that the key was not just a physical object, but a metaphor for the choices he would have to make. Haunted by the shadows of the clandestine society, Mason and Alina faced a crossroads. The decisions made in the coming days would not only shape their future, but would also unveil the truth behind the enigma that brought them together in the twisted realm of Tinder romance. Mason, torn between love and the looming shadows of the secret organization, decided to confront the enigma head-on. He and Alina embarked on a journey to unravel the mysteries of her past, following the trail of the letters and decoding the secrets that had haunted her for years. As they delved deeper into the clandestine society, Mason and Alina discovered a hidden world operating in the shadows of ordinary life. The key, it turned out, was a symbol of choice, a choice that would determine their fate within the intricate web of the organization. The couple faced challenges and dangers as they unraveled the truth. Betrayals and alliances emerged, and Mason found himself tested in ways he never imagined. The key opened doors to hidden chambers and revealed the darkest corners of the organization's secrets, leaving Mason questioning who he could trust. In a climactic confrontation, Mason and Elena stood before the leaders of the society, demanding answers. The truth was unveiled, a convoluted tale of power struggles, ancient rituals, and a destiny that bound them together. The choices made by Mason and Elena would not only break the shackles of the secret society, but also reshape the future of those entangled in its web. In the end, Mason made a choice to break free from the sinister influence of the clandestine organization. With the key in hand, he and Elena confronted the shadows that had haunted their lives. The society crumbled as its secrets were exposed, and Mason and Elena emerged from the darkness, hand in hand, ready to face a new chapter of their lives. As they walked away from the remnants of the secret society, Mason felt a sense of liberation. The enigma that began with a Tinder match had transformed into a journey of self-discovery, resilience, and love that conquered the darkest forces. And so, Mason and Elena, having faced the shadows together, stepped into the light, leaving behind the mysteries that once bound them. The key, now a symbol of their shared strength, served as a reminder of the choices that shaped their destiny and the unbreakable bond forged in the crucible of uncertainty. It was a gloomy evening in the city, and Larry found himself swiping through profiles on Tinder. His routine Friday night had taken an unexpected turn when he stumbled upon Emily's profile. Intrigued by her captivating smile and witty bio, Larry couldn't resist swiping right. To his surprise, the match happened instantly. Excitement mixed with a hint of nervousness as Larry pondered over the perfect opening line. He decided to keep it simple, asking about her favorite movies. Emily responded promptly, revealing a shared love for classic cinema. As the conversation flowed, Larry discovered more about Emily, her passions, dreams, and the mysterious allure that drew him in. They exchanged messages late into the night, finding comfort in the anonymity of the digital realm. Larry was hooked, eager to unravel the enigma behind Emily's virtual presence. Days turned into weeks, and Larry and Emily's connection deepened. They shared personal stories, confided in each other, and even discussed meeting in person. Larry couldn't shake off the feeling that there was more to Emily than met the eye, but curiosity prevailed over caution. One evening, Emily suggested a spontaneous meetup at a quaint coffee shop. Larry, eager to take their connection to the next level, agreed without hesitation. As he waited nervously, the door chimed, and Emily walked in, her presence casting a spell on the room. Their initial awkwardness melted away as they delved into conversations that seamlessly continued from their digital exchanges. Larry found himself captivated by Emily's charm and intelligence, but a lingering sense of unease tugged at the back of his mind. As weeks turned into months, Larry's infatuation grew, but so did his sense of foreboding. Emily remained elusive about certain aspects of her life, deflecting questions with a charming smile. Larry's friends warned him of the dangers of online dating, but he brushed aside their concerns, convinced that his connection with Emily was different. One day, as Larry scrolled through his phone, he stumbled upon an article about a string of mysterious disappearances in the city. The victims had one thing in common. They all had a connection to online dating. A chill ran down Larry's spine as he realized the gravity of the situation. Haunted by doubt, Larry confronted Emily about his findings. Her reaction was unexpected. A cold, calculating stare replaced the warmth he had grown accustomed to. The truth unfolded in a chilling revelation. Emily wasn't who she claimed to be. She was part of a sinister scheme, luring unsuspecting victims into a web of deceit. As Larry grappled with the shock, he realized the danger he narrowly escaped. The experience left him scared, forever cautious of the shadows that lurked behind the screen. The tale of Larry and Emily serves as a cautionary reminder in the world of digital connections. Sometimes, the most alluring profiles hide the darkest secrets. Larry, now aware of the sinister reality that had unfolded before him, couldn't shake off the feeling of vulnerability that lingered in the air. The revelation about Emily's true identity left him questioning the authenticity of every online interaction he had ever had. Trust had been shattered, and the virtual world that once seemed full of possibilities now appeared as a treacherous landscape. Haunted by the experience, Larry decided to delve deeper into the mystery surrounding Emily and her accomplices. He began researching the string of disappearances, connecting the dots between the victims and the web of deceit that had ensnared them. Each revelation sent shivers down his spine, unveiling a dark underworld thriving beneath the surface of seemingly innocuous dating apps. As Larry continued his investigation, he discovered a pattern of carefully crafted personas used by the perpetrators to lure unsuspecting individuals. The online realm, once a place of connection, had become a breeding ground for deception. Larry's determination to expose the truth intensified, fueled by a desire to protect others from falling victim to the same trap. Amidst his quest for justice, Larry received a mysterious message from an anonymous source. The sender claimed to have crucial information about the people behind the sinister plot. Cautious but driven by a sense of responsibility, Larry agreed to meet the informant in a dimly lit alley, the air thick with anticipation. The shadowy figure emerged, revealing snippets of information that sent shockwaves through Larry's understanding of the situation. The truth was more convoluted than he could have ever imagined, and the stakes were higher than he anticipated. The perpetrators weren't just ordinary criminals. They were part of a sophisticated network preying on the unsuspecting. With newfound knowledge and a sense of urgency, Larry raced against time to expose the truth. The journey took him through a maze of deception, betrayal, and unexpected alliances. Along the way, he encountered individuals who had narrowly escaped the clutches of the online predators, each with a harrowing tale of survival. As Larry's investigation unfolded, the perpetrators grew wary of his pursuit. The cat and mouse game escalated, with Larry teetering on the edge of danger. Yet, driven by a sense of justice and a determination to protect others, he pressed on, unraveling the layers of deceit that concealed a web of darkness. Little did Larry know that the climax of his journey would lead him to a confrontation that would redefine his understanding of trust, resilience, and the thin line between the virtual and real worlds. The conclusion awaited, and the true test of Larry's courage and resolve was about to unfold in a chilling climax that would leave an indelible mark on his life. Larry's relentless pursuit of the truth brought him to a clandestine meeting in an abandoned warehouse. The air was thick with tension as he faced the mastermind behind the sinister plot, a cold, calculating figure who reveled in the chaos caused by their web of deceit. The revelation of their identity sent shockwaves through Larry, for it was someone he had least expected. As the confrontation unfolded, Larry found himself entangled in a psychological game, where the line between predator and prey blurred. The mastermind revealed the twisted motivations behind their actions, a thirst for power, control, and a perverse enjoyment in manipulating the lives of unsuspecting individuals. The realization sent a chill down Larry's spine as he grappled with the gravity of the situation. In a tense standoff, Larry's determination and the strength of his convictions clashed with the malevolent force that sought to exploit the vulnerabilities of the digital age. The warehouse became a battleground of ideologies, with Larry standing as a symbol of resilience against the shadows that lurked in the online world. In a moment of unforeseen alliances, individuals who had suffered at the hands of the perpetrators emerged from the shadows, uniting with Larry in a collective stand against the darkness. The confrontation escalated into a chaotic showdown, with the mastermind's carefully constructed facade crumbling under the weight of their own malevolence. As the authorities closed in on the scene, the mastermind attempted a desperate escape, only to be apprehended by the combined efforts of Larry and the individuals he had unwittingly united. Justice prevailed, but the scars left by the ordeal ran deep. In the aftermath, Larry found solace in the camaraderie forged through adversity. The survivors, once isolated by their shared trauma, formed a support network, each healing in their own way. Larry, forever changed by the experience, emerged stronger, more vigilant, and acutely aware of the delicate balance between connection and vulnerability. The tale of Larry's harrowing journey through the labyrinth of online deception served as a cautionary tale for others. The digital world, with its promises of connection and discovery, harbored dangers that required a discerning eye and a vigilant heart. Larry's resilience became a beacon of hope, a reminder that even in the darkest corners of the virtual realm, the human spirit could triumph over deceit. As the city slowly recovered from the shadows that had enveloped it, Larry stood as a testament to the strength that could be found in the face of adversity. The echoes of his journey resonated in the hearts of those who had shared the ordeal, a haunting reminder that the digital realm, while full of promise, held secrets that demanded caution, courage, and an unwavering commitment to truth.
It was a crisp autumn evening, the air carrying the faint scent of fallen leaves and impending change, when I stumbled upon the Craigslist ad that would soon become the gateway to a labyrinth of terror. The title seemed innocuous enough. Furnished room for rent, perfect for students or young professionals. As a recent college graduate navigating the murky waters of post-graduation life in the bustling city, the promise of affordable housing was akin to stumbling upon an oasis in the desert. Little did I know, however, that behind the seemingly benign words lay a sinister web waiting to ensnare its unsuspecting prey. Upon contacting the poster, a man by the name of James, I was met with an air of warm enthusiasm that bordered on overzealous. He described the room in vivid detail, spacious, well-lit, and conveniently located near public transportation hubs. Despite a nagging sense of unease gnawing at the edges of my consciousness, I found myself captivated by the allure of the offer, willing to overlook any potential red flags in my desperate quest for stable accommodation. Arrangements were promptly made for me to visit the apartment the following day. As I made my way to the address provided, a creeping sense of foreboding began to take root in the depths of my psyche. The neighborhood through which I traversed was a study in desolation, with boarded-up windows and graffiti-covered walls serving as silent witnesses to the decay that had befallen the area. Still, I pressed on, driven by a potent cocktail of determination and naivety. James greeted me at the door with a disarming smile that did little to assuage the growing apprehension knotting in the pit of my stomach. He was a middle-aged man, with graying hair and a slight stoop to his shoulders. Though his demeanor appeared friendly enough, there was an underlying tension in the air that set my nerves on edge, a primal instinct warning me of unseen dangers lurking beneath the surface. Stepping into the apartment, I was immediately struck by the dilapidated state of my surroundings. The furnishings were threadbare and a musty odor hung in the air like a dense fog. Despite the sinking feeling in the pit of my stomach, I followed James into the room he had advertised, clinging to the hope that it would offer some semblance of refuge amidst the chaos of my uncertain existence. The room itself was a small, windowless chamber with barely enough space to accommodate the essentials. The walls were adorned with peeling wallpaper, and the single bed was adorned with faded linens that spoke volumes of neglect. Though alarm bells clamored for my attention, I convinced myself that I could make do with what was offered. After all, beggars couldn't afford to be choosers, or so the saying went. James wasted no time in extolling the virtues of the apartment, painting a picture of idyllic domesticity that seemed utterly divorced from the grim reality before me. Yet, as he spoke, I couldn't shake the feeling that something was amiss. His eyes lingered on me a fraction too long, and his smile seemed strained around the edges, as if concealing a deeper, more sinister truth that lay just beneath the surface. Unable to ignore the gnawing sense of unease any longer, I politely declined James' offer and made to leave. But before I could reach the door, his demeanor shifted, his friendly facade crumbling to reveal the true depths of his depravity. "You can't leave," he spat, his voice dripping with malice. "You belong to me now." Panic surged through me like a tidal wave as I realized the gravity of my situation. I was alone, trapped in a stranger's apartment with no means of escape. With trembling hands, I reached for my phone, praying for a miracle. But James was quicker, snatching the device from my grasp with a cruel smirk. "No one can help you now," he taunted, his grip like a vice around my wrist. In that moment, terror consumed me completely, rendering me powerless against the twisted machinations of fate. I was at the mercy of a madman, with no hope of salvation in sight. Hours stretched into eternity as I languished in captivity, my mind a maelstrom of fear and desperation. Every creak of the floorboards, every whispered threat sent shivers down my spine, a constant reminder of the nightmare from which I could not awaken. But just when all hope seemed lost, salvation arrived in the form of an unexpected savior. A neighbor, drawn by the sound of my cries, alerted the authorities to my plight. In a flurry of activity, police officers swarmed the apartment, their presence a beacon of hope in the darkness. James was apprehended without incident, his facade of normalcy shattered to reveal the true depths of his depravity. It was revealed that he had lured countless victims into his web of deceit, preying upon the vulnerable with impunity. As I emerged from the confines of that wretched apartment, battered but unbroken, I knew that I would carry the scars of my ordeal for the rest of my days. But I also knew that I was one of the lucky ones, spared from a fate far worse than death. My Craigslist horror story serves as a cautionary tale, a stark reminder of the dangers that lurk beneath the surface of everyday life. It is a testament to the resilience of the human spirit and the enduring power of hope in the face of unspeakable darkness. And though the memories may haunt me for years to come, I refuse to let them define me. For I am a survivor, forged in the crucible of adversity, and I will not be silenced by the shadows of the past. In the vast expanse of the digital realm, where screens flicker with endless possibilities and the click of a mouse can transport you anywhere, there exists a shadowy corner where danger lurks beneath the guise of convenience. This is where our tale unfolds, a story that begins innocently enough, but quickly spirals into a nightmare of unimaginable proportions. The prologue. Meet Sarah, a recent college graduate embarking on the journey of adulthood with a mix of excitement and trepidation. Like many in her position, Sarah found herself in need of a reliable mode of transportation to navigate the bustling city streets. With limited funds at her disposal, she turned to the vast labyrinth of online classifieds in search of a bargain. Sarah stumbled upon an ad for a vintage motorcycle, a sleek machine that seemed to beckon to her from the screen. Despite her initial hesitations, she couldn't shake the allure of the open road and the wind in her hair. With a sense of adventure coursing through her veins, she reached out to the seller, a mysterious figure who went by the name of Max. Their correspondence was brief and cryptic, with Max providing scant details about the motorcycle beyond its make and model. They arranged to meet in a secluded alleyway on the outskirts of town, a decision Sarah would later come to regret. The encounter. As Sarah arrived at the designated meeting spot, a sense of apprehension settled over her like a heavy cloak. The alleyway was shrouded in darkness, illuminated only by the faint glow of distant streetlights. The air was thick with the scent of rain, promising an impending storm. She waited nervously, a heart pounding in her chest as she scanned the shadows for any sign of movement. Just as she was beginning to doubt her decision to come, a figure emerged from the darkness, his silhouette illuminated by the soft glow of a nearby lamppost. Max was taller than she had imagined, his features obscured by the shadows. Despite her reservations, Sarah approached him with cautious optimism, her senses on high alert. There was something about Max that set her on edge, a feeling she couldn't quite shake. The transaction. As Sarah inspected the motorcycle, a sense of unease settled over her like a dark cloud. The bike seemed to gleam in the dim light, its chrome accents catching the faint glow of the street lamp. But beneath its polished exterior lurked a sense of foreboding, a feeling that there was something hidden beneath the surface. Max watched her intently, his eyes unreadable behind the veil of darkness. With a sinking feeling in the pit of her stomach, Sarah realized that she had stumbled into something far more sinister than a simple transaction. Before she could react, Max made his move, his intentions becoming clear in an instant. With a surge of adrenaline, Sarah sprang into action, her instincts taking over as she fought to defend herself against her assailant. The escape. In the chaos that followed, Sarah's world narrowed to a singular focus: escape. With every ounce of strength she possessed, she fought back against Max's relentless assault, her mind racing with fear and desperation. As she broke free from his grasp, Sarah knew that she had only one chance to get away. With a burst of speed, she sprinted towards the safety of her car, the sound of Max's enraged shouts echoing in her ears like a distant thunderstorm. With trembling hands, she fumbled for her keys, her heart hammering in her chest as she struggled to unlock the door. In a moment of sheer terror, she glanced over her shoulder to see Max closing in on her, his eyes burning with a feral intensity. With a final push, Sarah managed to slam the door shut and start the engine, the roar of the motorcycle drowning out the sound of her pounding heart. With a screech of tires, she peeled out of the alleyway, leaving Max behind in a cloud of dust and exhaust. The aftermath. In the days that followed, Sarah found herself grappling with the aftermath of her harrowing ordeal. The memories of that night haunted her every waking moment, leaving her feeling raw and vulnerable. She reported the incident to the authorities, but without any concrete evidence. There was little they could do to apprehend her attacker. Haunted by the trauma of her experience, Sarah became hyper-vigilant, her once carefree spirit replaced by a pervasive sense of paranoia. Every shadow seemed to conceal a potential threat, and she couldn't shake the feeling of being watched, even in the safety of her own home. Conclusion. The tale of Sarah's terrifying encounter serves as a stark reminder of the dangers that lurk within the digital abyss. In a world where anonymity reigns supreme, it's all too easy to fall prey to predators masquerading as sellers or buyers. But amidst the darkness, there is also resilience and strength, as Sarah's determination to survive against all odds demonstrates. As she navigates the uncertain waters of recovery, Sarah vows never to let her guard down again, to trust her instincts and heed the warning signs that she once ignored. For in the digital realm, as in life, the line between safety and danger is often perilously thin, and it's up to each of us to tread carefully, lest we find ourselves lost in the shadows forever. Chapter 1. The Innocent Search. In a bustling city where opportunities beckoned from every corner, Sarah found herself at a crossroads. Fresh out of college and burdened with the weight of student loans, she realized that the prospect of living alone in a tiny apartment was financially untenable. With a heavy heart, she turned to Craigslist in search of a roommate, hoping to find someone who would not only share the burden of rent, but also bring a sense of companionship to her solitary existence. After meticulously crafting an ad that highlighted her requirements, a non-smoker, titty, and responsible individual, Sarah anxiously hit the post button and waited for responses to flood her inbox. To her relief, the messages started pouring in, each one offering a glimpse into the lives of potential roommates. Amidst the sea of inquiries, one message stood out like a beacon of hope. A polite and articulate email from a man named Michael. Chapter 2. The Facade Unravels. At first glance, Michael seemed like the perfect roommate. He was courteous, well-spoken, and shared Sarah's penchant for cleanliness, a trifecta of qualities that seemed too good to be true. However, as Sarah delved deeper into their email correspondence, cracks began to form in the facade of perfection. There was something unsettling about the overly formal tone of Michael's messages, a sense of detachment that sent shivers down her spine. Despite her misgivings, Sarah pushed aside her doubts, chalking them up to nerves and paranoia. After all, she reasoned, it was natural to feel apprehensive about inviting a stranger into her home. With a forced smile plastered on her face, she arranged to meet Michael in person at a nearby cafe, hoping to glean some semblance of trust from their face-to-face interaction. Chapter 3. The Meeting. As Sarah sat nervously sipping her latte, she scanned the bustling cafe for any sign of Michael's arrival. Her heart skipped a beat when she spotted a tall figure striding confidently towards her, his piercing gaze locking onto hers with an intensity that made her squirm uncomfortably in her seat. It was Michael, or at least, someone who bore a striking resemblance to the man she had been corresponding with. With a forced smile, Sarah greeted him, a voice betraying none of the apprehension swirling in her mind. As they exchanged pleasantries, Michael's demeanor remained eerily composed, his gaze never wavering from her face. It was as if he was sizing her up, dissecting her every word and gesture with clinical precision. Chapter 4. The Offer. Despite the unsettling nature of their encounter, Sarah found herself drawn to Michael's charm and charisma. He regaled her with tales of his travels and career successes, painting a picture of a man who had it all figured out. When the topic of rent came up, Michael surprised her with an unexpected offer. He was willing to pay double the asking price in exchange for exclusive use of the apartment on weekends. The offer seemed too good to refuse, a tempting proposition that would alleviate Sarah's financial worries and grant her the freedom to pursue her own interests outside of the confines of her cramped apartment. With a sense of exhilaration coursing through her veins, she accepted Michael's offer without a second thought, oblivious to the danger lurking beneath the surface. Chapter 5. The Warning Signs. In the days that followed, Sarah's excitement slowly gave way to trepidation as she began to notice subtle changes in Michael's behavior. He became increasingly possessive and controlling, demanding her undivided attention and forbidding her from having guests over without his explicit permission. His once charming demeanor morphed into something altogether more sinister, leaving Sarah feeling like a prisoner in her own home. Despite the warning signs glaring her in the face, Sarah was reluctant to confront Michael about his behavior, fearing the repercussions of angering him. Instead, she retreated into herself, tiptoeing around him like a mouse afraid to attract the attention of a hungry cat. It was only a matter of time before the fragile facade of normalcy shattered, plunging Sarah into a nightmare from which she might never awaken. Chapter 6. The Unraveling. As weeks turned into months, Sarah found herself trapped in a downward spiral of fear and despair, a once bright future eclipsed by the suffocating presence of Michael in her life. He monitored her every move with hawk-like vigilance, his mere presence casting a shadow over her every waking moment. Try as she might to escape his clutches, Sarah found herself ensnared in a web of his making, her hopes of freedom fading with each passing day. It wasn't until she stumbled upon a hidden compartment in Michael's bedroom, a veritable treasure trove of incriminating evidence, that Sarah realized the true extent of the danger she was in. Amongst the clutter of newspaper clippings and handwritten notes lay a chilling manifesto detailing Michael's twisted obsession with her, his plans for their future together etched in blood-red ink. In that moment, Sarah knew that she had to act fast if she wanted to escape with her life intact. Chapter 7. The Escape Plan. With trembling hands, Sarah formulated a desperate plan to escape Michael's clutches once and for all. She confided in a trusted friend about her predicament, seeking refuge in their unwavering support and guidance. Together, they concocted a carefully orchestrated escape plan, meticulously plotting each step with the precision of a military operation. Under the cover of darkness, Sarah gathered her most prized possessions and made preparations to leave the apartment for good. With her heart pounding in her chest, she tiptoed past Michael's bedroom, praying that he remained blissfully unaware of her intentions. Every creak of the floorboards sounded like a death knell, threatening to betray her presence to her captor lurking in the shadows. Chapter 8. The Confrontation. Just as Sarah was about to make her escape, she felt a cold hand clamp down on her shoulder, freezing her in her tracks. With a gasp of terror, she turned to face Michael, his eyes burning with a fiery intensity that sent chills down her spine. In that moment, all pretense of civility vanished, replaced by a raw, unbridled rage that threatened to consume them both. With a guttural roar, Michael lunged at Sarah. His fingers curled into claws as he sought to drag her back into the darkness from whence she came. But Sarah was not so easily defeated. With a strength born of desperation, she fought back with all the fury of a cornered animal, lashing out at her assailant with a ferocity that surprised even herself. Chapter 9. The Narrow Escape. In the chaos that ensued, Sarah made a split-second decision to break free from Michael's grasp, her survival instincts kicking into overdrive as she fought tooth and nail to escape his clutches. With adrenaline coursing through her veins, she sprinted towards the door, her heart pounding in her chest as she raced against time to reach safety. Behind her, she could hear Michael's enraged shouts echoing in the darkness, a chilling reminder of the danger she had narrowly escaped. As she emerged into the cool night air, Sarah felt a wave of relief wash over her, her lungs burning with exertion as she gulped down mouthfuls of oxygen. In that moment, she knew that she had cheated death by the narrowest of margins, her newfound freedom a testament to the resilience of the human spirit in the face of unspeakable horror. Chapter 10. The Aftermath. In the aftermath of her harrowing ordeal, Sarah struggled to come to terms with the trauma of her experience. Nightmares plagued her sleep, their tendrils creeping into every corner of her consciousness like insidious vines seeking to ensnare her once more. But amidst the darkness, there glimmered a faint glimmer of hope, a beacon of light guiding her towards a brighter future. With the unwavering support of her loved ones, Sarah embarked on a journey of healing and self-discovery, determined to reclaim her sense of agency in a world that had once sought to rob her of it. Though the scars of her ordeal would never fully heal, she refused to let fear dictate the course of her life, vowing to forge ahead with newfound courage and resilience. Conclusion. The tale of Sarah serves as a stark reminder of the dangers that lurk beneath the surface of seemingly innocuous encounters. In a world where trust is easily exploited and appearances can be deceiving, it's imperative to remain vigilant and discerning in our interactions with others. Through Sarah's harrowing journey of survival and redemption, we are reminded of the indomitable strength of the human spirit in the face of unspeakable horror, inspiring us to never underestimate the power of hope in even the darkest of times. In the heart of the Pacific Northwest, where the towering trees loomed like ancient guardians and the whispers of the wind carried tales of forgotten secrets, there dwelled a man named John. With a rugged demeanor and a spirit as unyielding as the mountains themselves, John was a seasoned hunter who had long called the wilderness his home. His weathered face bore the marks of countless battles with nature, and his keen eyes held a wisdom forged in the crucible of survival. For years, John had roamed the untamed wilderness, navigating its treacherous terrain with a skill born of necessity. He knew every twist and turn of the forest, every hidden glade and shadowed vale, as intimately as he knew the lines on his own weathered face. But on one ominous night, as twilight descended and the forest was cloaked in a veil of darkness, John's mastery of the wild would be put to the ultimate test. Armed with his trusty rifle and a lifetime of experience, John set out into the depths of the forest, his senses alert for any sign of danger. The air was heavy with the scent of pine and damp earth, and the only sound was the soft crunch of leaves beneath his boots. Yet, despite the outward calm, John could sense a tension in the air, a primal energy that seemed to pulse with a life of its own. It was a feeling he had experienced many times before, the unmistakable sense that he was not alone in the wilderness, that there were unseen eyes watching his every move with a mix of curiosity and hunger. As the night wore on, John's senses sharpened, attuned to the subtlest of sounds and movements in the darkness. He moved like a shadow through the trees, his every step calculated and deliberate, his eyes scanning the shadows for any hint of movement. But try as he might, he could find no trace of the creature he sought, no sign of its presence save for the eerie silence that hung like a shroud over the forest. It was unnerving, this sense of being hunted in turn by something he could not see nor fully comprehend. And yet John pressed on, his determination unshaken by the fear that gnawed at his insides like a hungry beast. Then, just when John's nerves were stretched taut as bowstrings, he heard it, the faint rustle of leaves, the soft padding of footsteps drawing nearer with each passing moment. His heart quickened with a mixture of excitement and apprehension as he realized that he was not alone in the wilderness, that there was something, or someone, else out there, watching and waiting with bated breath. His hand tightened around the grip of his rifle, his fingers itching to unleash the fury of his weapon upon whatever unseen foe lurked in the shadows. With a steady hand and a calm resolve, John raised his rifle, his eyes scanning the darkness for any sign of movement. But the forest remained still, the shadows clinging to their secrets like a lover's embrace. And then, as if from out of the very heart of darkness itself, it came, a monstrous shape looming in the night, its eyes gleaming with an otherworldly hunger. Fear gripped John's heart like a vice as he beheld the creature before him, a hulking behemoth of fur and fang, its breath hot and fetid in the chill night air. With a primal roar, it launched itself at John, its claws slashing through the air with deadly intent. But John was no stranger to danger, no novice to the ways of the wild. With a skill honed through years of survival, he met the creature head-on, his rifle barking defiance into the night. The sound echoed through the forest like thunder, reverberating off the ancient trees and sending a shiver down John's spine. Yet, for all his bravery and skill, he soon found himself outmatched by the sheer ferocity of his foe. The creature was a force of nature, a living embodiment of the wild itself, and try as he might, John could not seem to gain the upper hand. With each passing moment, the creature's attacks grew more frenzied, more savage, until it seemed as though John's fate was sealed. Desperation clawed at his insides as he fought for his life, his muscles straining against the relentless onslaught of his attacker. But even as his strength waned, and his breath came in ragged gasps, John refused to surrender to the darkness that threatened to consume him. Just when it seemed that all hope was lost, a beam of light pierced the darkness, casting the scene in stark relief. It was a search party, drawn to the sound of gunfire in the night, their voices ringing out like a clarion call in the darkness. With their help, John was able to fend off the creature and escape the forest with his life intact. But as he emerged from the wilderness, shaken but alive, John couldn't shake the feeling that he had glimpsed something beyond the veil of reality, something primal and ancient that lurked just beyond the edge of civilization. And though he returned home safely, the memory of that fateful night would haunt him for the rest of his days, a reminder of the untamed wilderness that lay just beyond the safety of civilization's embrace. In the days and weeks that followed, John would find himself haunted by dreams of the creature that had stalked him through the darkness, its eyes burning with a hunger that seemed to pierce his very soul. And though he tried to convince himself that it was merely a trick of the mind, a figment of his imagination born of fear and exhaustion, deep down, John knew the truth, that there were forces in the world far older and more powerful than any he could ever hope to comprehend. And as he gazed out into the wilderness that stretched endlessly before him, he couldn't help but wonder what other secrets lay hidden beneath its ancient boughs, waiting to be discovered by those brave enough to seek them out. The sun dipped below the horizon, casting long shadows across the dense forest. The air turned crisp, and the scent of damp earth hung heavy. I adjusted the straps of my backpack, my fingers brushing against the cold steel of my hunting knife. Tonight, I would venture deep into the heart of the Whispering Woods, a place where legends whispered of ancient spirits and cursed souls. My name is Ethan, and I am a seasoned hunter. I've tracked elusive game across desolate tundras and sweltering deserts, but nothing could prepare me for what awaited me in these dark woods. The locals spoke of eerie occurrences, disappearing hunters, ghostly apparitions, and the haunting cries of animals that echoed through the night. I stepped off the trail, my boots sinking into the damp soil. The moon peeked through the thick canopy, illuminating twisted roots and gnarled branches. My breath misted in the chilly air as I followed the faint trail deeper into the forest. The trees seemed to lean in, their skeletal limbs reaching for me like bony fingers. The first sign of trouble came when I stumbled upon a deer carcass. Its eyes were wide open, frozen in terror. But it wasn't the kill that unnerved me. It was the way the blood had pooled around it. Perfectly symmetrical circles, as if something had drained the life force from the animal with surgical precision. I pressed on, my senses on high alert. The forest seemed to close in, the trees whispering secrets I couldn't decipher. My flashlight flickered, casting eerie shadows on the moss-covered ground. I heard footsteps behind me, soft, deliberate. I spun around, but there was no one there. Only the rustling leaves and the distant hoot of an owl. As I continued, the forest grew denser. The moon disappeared, leaving me in pitch darkness. My heart pounded as I stumbled upon a clearing. In its center stood an ancient stone altar covered in moss and lichen. Symbols were etched into its surface, symbols I couldn't recognize. The air grew colder and I felt eyes upon me. That's when I saw her, a woman draped in tattered white robes. Her eyes were hollow, her skin translucent. She beckoned me closer, her voice a soft whisper carried by the wind. "Ethan," she said, a breath chilling my bones. "You seek the truth, don't you?" I nodded, unable to tear my gaze away from her. "What truth?" "The curse," she replied. "The Whispering Woods were once a sacred place, but greed and bloodshed tainted its soil. Hunters like you come seeking trophies, unaware of the price they pay." I remembered the deer, the perfect circles of blood. "What happened here?" "Long ago," she said, "a hunter killed a rare stag, a guardian of these woods. In its dying breath, it cursed the land. Now, those who hunt here are hunted in return." I glanced at my knife, suddenly feeling its weight. "How do I break the curse?" Her eyes bore into mine. "You must offer a sacrifice, a life for a life. Kill the beast that haunts these woods, and the curse will lift." "What beast?" I asked, my voice barely audible. She pointed toward the heart of the forest. "The Wendigo, the embodiment of hunger and desperation. It feasts on lost souls." I swallowed hard, my mind racing. But I had come too far to turn back. The Wendigo awaited me, its hunger insatiable. I tightened my grip on the knife and stepped into the darkness, ready to face the horror that lurked within the Whispering Woods. The forest grew darker as I delved deeper, the silence broken only by the rustling of leaves and the occasional distant howl. Every step felt heavier, laden with the weight of impending doom. I clutched my knife tighter, the metal biting into my palm. Fear gnawed at my insides, but determination drove me forward. Hours passed, the moon shrouded by thick clouds. I lost track of time, my senses dulled by the oppressive darkness. Shapes shifted in the shadows, playing tricks on my mind. I heard whispers, soft, sinister voices that seemed to emanate from the very trees themselves. And then I saw it, a pair of glowing eyes, piercing the darkness like beacons of malice. The Wendigo stood before me, towering and grotesque. Its emaciated frame was draped in tattered fur, its claws like daggers gleaming in the faint moonlight. I could feel its hunger, a primal urge that sent shivers down my spine. I gripped my knife, steeling myself for the battle ahead. The Wendigo snarled, a guttural sound that echoed through the forest. It lunged at me, its claws slashing through the air with deadly precision. I dodged, narrowly avoiding its attack. We circled each other, locked in a deadly dance. I struck out with my knife, aiming for its heart, but the Wendigo was fast, too fast. It darted away, taunting me with its mocking laughter. Sweat dripped down my brow, mingling with the blood from my wounds. But I refused to give up. With a roar of defiance, I charged at the creature. my knife flashing in the darkness. I felt its claws tear into my flesh, felt the searing pain of its bite. But still, I fought on, fueled by desperation and a flicker of hope. And then it happened. A flash of silver in the darkness, a surge of triumphant energy. My knife found its mark, burying itself deep into the Wendigo's chest. The creature let out a deafening shriek, a sound that echoed through the forest like a death knell. I watched as the Wendigo crumbled to the ground, its form dissolving into wisps of shadow and smoke. The curse had been broken, the darkness lifted. I collapsed to my knees, exhausted but victorious. The next morning, I emerged from the Whispering Woods, a changed man. The sun shone brightly overhead, banishing the lingering shadows of the night. I bore the scars of my battle with the Wendigo, but I wore them proudly. They were a testament to my strength and resilience. As I walked away from the forest, I couldn't help but feel a sense of gratitude. The Whispering Woods had tested me, pushed me to my limits, but it had also granted me a gift, the gift of redemption. I vowed never to forget the lessons I had learned within its depths, to always respect the power of the natural world. And so, dear reader, I leave you with this cautionary tale. The Whispering Woods may be a place of darkness and danger, but it is also a place of wonder and mystery. Approach with caution, but do not let fear rule your heart. For within its depths lies the truth of who we are and what we are capable of achieving. In the heart of the dense Whispering Woods, where the trees stood ancient and gnarled, a lone figure moved with purpose. Jack, a seasoned hunter, paid no heed to the ominous whispers that seemed to weave through the branches, warning him to turn back. His eyes were fixed on a single goal, the legendary buck said to roam these haunted woods. As dusk settled, casting long shadows across the forest floor, Jack's senses sharpened. Every rustle of leaves, every snap of a twig, sent a thrill of anticipation coursing through his veins. He pressed forward, determined to claim his prize and silence the doubters who scoffed at the tales of the Whispering Woods. But as he drew closer to his elusive quarry, the forest seemed to come alive with whispered voices, urging him to flee. Ignoring the warnings, Jack pressed on, his heart pounding in his chest as he closed in on the majestic buck. Then, just as victory seemed within reach, darkness descended like a suffocating blanket, enveloping the forest in an impenetrable shroud. Panic seized Jack as he stumbled through the underbrush, disoriented and lost in the blackness. The whispers grew louder, more insistent, until they seemed to echo inside his very mind, driving him to the brink of madness. Desperate to escape, Jack pushed forward, his fear mounting with each passing moment. Finally, he burst into a small clearing, his breath catching in his throat at the sight before him. Shadowy figures lurked among the trees, their eyes gleaming with malevolence as they closed in on him. With a cry of terror, Jack turned and fled, the mocking laughter of his pursuers echoing in his ears as he stumbled out of the woods, vowing never to return to the cursed depths of the Whispering Woods. In another corner of the wilderness, amidst the rugged peaks and valleys of the Pacific Northwest, a group of friends embarked on a hunting trip that would soon descend into nightmare. Among them was Mark, a seasoned outdoorsman renowned for his fearlessness in the face of danger. As they trekked deeper into the wilderness, their laughter and banter masked the growing sense of unease that hung heavy in the air. But as night fell and the campfire dwindled to embers, their mirth turned to fear as they realized they were being hunted by something not quite human. Shadows danced at the edge of their vision, and strange symbols etched into the trees served as a sinister warning of the horrors to come. With each passing hour, the sense of dread only grew stronger until finally, they were confronted by the creature that had been stalking them all along. With eyes that glowed like embers in the darkness, it emerged from the shadows, a twisted mockery of the natural world. In a desperate bid for survival, the brood fought back with all their strength, but it was no use against the primal fury of their attacker. One by one, they fell before it, their screams swallowed by the unforgiving wilderness as they became just another chapter in the forest's dark history. And yet, the horrors of the wilderness were not confined to the deep woods and rugged mountains. In the murky depths of a haunted marsh, a lone hunter named Sarah found herself ensnared in a nightmare from which there seemed to be no escape. Drawn to the marsh by tales of a legendary beast that prowled its waters, Sarah was determined to prove her worth as a hunter. But as she ventured deeper into the marsh, she soon realized that she was not alone. Strange apparitions lurked in the mist, their haunting cries sending shivers down her spine as she struggled to maintain her composure. Every sound seemed magnified, every shadow a potential threat, until she could no longer distinguish between reality and the phantoms that haunted her dreams. In a desperate bid for escape, Sarah raced through the marsh, the cold mud sucking at her boots as she fought to put distance between herself and whatever lurked in the darkness. But just as she thought she was safe, a pair of glowing eyes appeared before her, their malevolent gaze fixing her in place as the beast emerged from the depths. With a primal roar, it lunged at her, its fetid breath hot on her neck as she scrambled for her life. In the end, it was only through sheer luck and determination that Sarah managed to escape the marsh, vowing never to return to its cursed waters again. In the world of hunting, danger lurks around every corner, waiting to ensnare the unwary in its deadly embrace. From the whispering woods to the haunted marsh, these terrifying tales serve as a stark reminder that even the most experienced hunters are not immune to the horrors that lie hidden in the wilderness. So the next time you venture into the wild, remember to heed the warnings of those who have gone before you, lest you too become just another victim of the dark and unforgiving world of hunting horror. In the heart of the dense Appalachian forests, where the trees stand tall and ancient, their branches reaching out like skeletal fingers towards the sky, there lies a tale of terror that chills the marrow of those who dare to tread its shadored paths. It is a tale of a seasoned hunter named Jake, whose love for the hunt led him deep into the wilderness one misty morning in pursuit of a prized buck. Jake was no stranger to the ways of the forest. He had spent countless hours stalking his prey, honing his skills to perfection. Armed with his trusty rifle and years of experience, he ventured forth, his senses keen and his determination unwavering. But little did he know that on this fateful day, he would encounter a nightmare beyond his wildest imagination. As the day wore on and dusk began to descend, Jake found himself deep within the heart of the forest, following an elusive trail that seemed to lead him ever further into the unknown. The air grew thick with the scent of damp earth and decaying leaves, and strange noises echoed through the trees, sending shivers down his spine. Ignoring the unease that gnawed at his insides, Jake pressed on, his eyes scanning the dense undergrowth for any sign of his quarry. But as darkness fell like a heavy blanket over the forest, he realized with a sinking heart that he was lost. The dense foliage seemed to close in around him, suffocating him with its oppressive presence, and panic clawed at his chest like a beast hungry for prey. It was then that Jake first sensed he was not alone in the forest. Unseen eyes watched his every move from the shadows, their gaze filled with a malevolent intent that sent a cold shiver down his spine. He tried to shake off the feeling of being hunted, to convince himself that it was merely his imagination running wild in the darkness. But deep down, he knew that something was terribly wrong. Suddenly, a guttural growl pierced the silence, freezing Jake in his tracks. His blood ran cold as he caught a glimpse of glowing eyes in the darkness, their malevolent gaze fixed upon him like a predator sizing up its prey. With a mounting sense of dread, Jake realized that he was being hunted by something far more sinister than any buck or bear. Desperate to escape the clutches of whatever lurked in the darkness, Jake fled through the underbrush, his heart pounding in his chest like a drumbeat of terror. Branches clawed at his skin, and roots threatened to trip him at every turn, but he dared not stop for fear of what lurked behind him in the shadows. Yet, no matter how fast he ran, the unseen presence pursued him relentlessly, its sinister presence closing in with each passing moment. It was as if the very forest itself had come alive, a malevolent force intent on claiming him for its own. Just when Jake thought he could run no further, he stumbled upon an ancient cabin hidden deep within the forest, its timbers weathered and worn by the passage of time. With nowhere else to turn, he sought refuge within its decaying walls, praying for morning to come and banish the horrors of the night. But as the first light of dawn broke through the canopy, Jake made a chilling discovery. The cabin, once a sanctuary from the darkness, was now a tomb, its walls adorned with the skeletal remains of those who had sought shelter before him. With a sinking heart, Jake realized that he was not alone in the forest, and that the true horror had only just begun. For within the depths of the Appalachian wilderness, an ancient evil lurked, a darkness older than time itself, hungry for the souls of those who dared to trespass upon its domain. And as Jake stood amidst the ruins of the cabin, he knew that he was its next victim, destined to become another lost soul swallowed up by the hunter's nightmare. With a pounding heart and trembling hands, Jake tried to gather his wits, to devise a plan to escape the clutches of the malevolent force that held him captive. But as he peered out into the forest, he saw nothing but darkness stretching out before him, an endless expanse of shadows that seemed to go on forever. Fear gnawed at his insides, threatening to consume him whole, but Jake knew that he could not afford to give in to despair. With grim determination, he set about fortifying the cabin, using whatever materials he could find to block the windows and reinforce the doors. But even as he worked, he could feel the presence of the ancient evil pressing in around him, its malevolent influence seeping through the walls like a noxious gas. Every creak of the floorboards, every rustle of the wind outside, sent a shiver down his spine, reminding him of the horrors that lurked just beyond the cabin's walls. Hours passed like an eternity as Jake huddled inside the cabin, his senses strained to the breaking point as he waited for the inevitable onslaught. But as the night wore on and the darkness deepened, he began to wonder if perhaps he had imagined the whole thing, if maybe he had allowed fear to cloud his judgment and lead him astray. Just as he was beginning to let his guard down, however, a blood-curdling scream shattered the silence, sending Jake scrambling for his rifle with trembling hands. Outside, the forest seemed to come alive with a cacophony of unearthly sounds, as if the very earth itself were groaning in agony. With a sinking heart, Jake realized that the time for hiding was over. The time for fighting had come. Gripping his rifle tightly, he stepped out into the darkness, his senses on high alert as he searched for any sign of his unseen foe. But try as he might, he could find no trace of the creature that hunted him, no hint of its presence save for the overwhelming sense of dread that hung heavy in the air. It was as if the forest itself had swallowed it whole, leaving Jake to wonder if perhaps he had been chasing shadows all along. As dawn broke over the horizon, bathing the forest in golden light, Jake emerged from the depths of the wilderness, his body battered and bruised, but his spirit unbroken. For though he had faced horrors beyond imagining, he had emerged victorious, a survivor in a world consumed by darkness. And as he made his way back to civilization, leaving the nightmare of the forest behind him, Jake knew that he would never forget the terror he had faced, nor the strength he had found within himself to overcome it. For in the heart of the dense Appalachian forests, where the trees stand tall and ancient, there lies a tale of terror that chills the marrow of those who dare to tread its shadowed paths. But there also lies a tale of courage, of resilience, and of the indomitable human spirit that refuses to be extinguished, even in the face of unspeakable evil.